Let's talk about what is culture. Culture is defined as a set of learned behavior, beliefs, attitudes, and ideals that are characteristic of a particular society or population. But what are the characteristics of culture? There are 8 characteristics of culture according to the nature of culture. The first is culture is learned. Cultural learning is the way of people within a society or culture tend to learn and pass on information. Learning styles are greatly influenced by how a culture socializes with its children and young people. Culture is learned, while much of what learned about culture can be learned through school, family peers, and the media. There are often many things about culture that are learned subconsciously. Just for example, in our workplace or in our school, people may be learn when particular holidays occur in school or workplace, like a Christmas, which are yearly celebrated every month of December 25. Secondly, culture is shared by group of people. To say that a group of people shares culture does not mean that all individuals think or act in identical ways. Shared culture is culture that emerges with a shared of experience of durable groups. Culture is shared. It's common for individuals to be belong with a multiple culture. The example, there are 10 taxonomical categories of sharing culture proposed such as food, shelter, work, caregiving, knowledge, well-being, mobility, leisure and services, and many others. Third is culture is cumulative. This process by which culture traits including behavior then change over multiple episodes of social transmission to become more effective and beneficial to the users. Culture gains to collect other culture in order to survive and to prosper. Then some practices done may not be necessary as a certain culture progresses throughout the time. For example, it requires the high-fidelity transmissions of the two qualitative and different abilities such as the instrumental skills on how to keep warm during winter and the social convention such as how to perform ceremonial dance. Fourthly, culture is change. Culture change is a national movement for the transmissions of older services based on the person-directed values and practices. It is used to public policy making that emphasize the influence of culture capital in the individual and the community behavior. Some example of cultural change is the technological innovation which are instances that internet connects people across social groups. Another example is the globalization. The integrations between the nations causes different cultures to copy each other and resulting into the new culture. Next, culture is dynamic. Culture is fluid rather than static, which means that culture changes all the time, every day, in subtle and tangible ways, because human communicate and express their cultural system in a variety of ways. However, it can be hard to pinpoint exactly what cultural dynamics are at the play. For example, are the director of the marketing for social services agencies will provide feedback to the manager about how management improved. In that way, director sits beyond a large executive desk and it's learning forward. Next, culture is ideational. Often it lays down an ideal pattern on behavior that are expected to be followed by individuals so as to gain social acceptance from the people with the same cultures. Culture is idealistic in nature because it embodies the ideals, values, and norms of the group. For example, marriage is seen as a lifelong bond in one society, and the other in that way, marriage should seen as a last for one's entire life and it should not be breakdown as the union. Next is culture diverse. Cultural diversity is synonymous with the multiculturalism. It is defined by the encyclopedia as the view that culture raises. It appreciating that society is made up of many different groups with different interests, skills, talents, and needs. It also means that recognize people in society which can have differing belief and sexual orientation. It means that the sum total of the human culture, which consists of the great many separate cultures. And lastly, culture also tell us how different activities should be conducted, such as how one should act as husband, wife, parents, child, and many others. These rules, permissive behavior are usually flexible to any degree which are some alternatives rather than hard rules. Just for example, when people in Hindu worship cows, so when they see how cow on the street or somewhere, they give it food as a form of their worship. The ability to learn from the relate respectfully to people of your own culture as well as other is known as the cultural responsibility. The more you respect the other culture, the more they respect your own culture.